Hi, my name is Kimberly from Zeeman Development. Today I'm going to show you how to import data from 4AGoodCause into Razor's Edge using Importacular. So open Razor's Edge and go to the plugins area and we can open up Importacular. You can see all the available data sources here. Select 4AGoodCause and click on Start. And we can choose to bring in either the donation or the order data. And we can also choose a date range to bring entries in from as well. So we can immediately see we've got 3 records for review. We'll need to create a mapping template to tell the plugin where we want the data to go in Razor's Edge. I've got one set up, but you can create a new one very easily. Let's take a quick look at it. The first thing you'll need to create is the constituent. So that's on the first tab here. We can see along the top we've got all the different areas of Razor's Edge. And in the free version of Importacular, you've got access to the constituent, the address, and the gift data. Within the constituent tab, we've got all these different areas down the side. So as well as the basic constituent information, such as name, date of birth, gender, we've got attributes, codes, appeals, solicit codes, notepads, aliases, and declarations. So let's just create a basic constituent. When we open up the mapping, we can see on the left, we've got the Razor's Edge data fields. And in the middle, we've got the source field name. So these are the fields that are coming over from 4AGoodCause. And if we click on the drop down, we can see all the different fields that are available to us from 4AGoodCause to map into Razor's Edge. And you can put those wherever you like in your Razor's Edge database. And then at the end, we've got a default value. So here we can add data that isn't necessarily in 4AGoodCause, but that's the way that we want to bring data into Razor's Edge. So I've mapped the first name field to the first name field from 4AGoodCause. For gender, I'm going to select that this be blank. And we've also got some settings on the right hand side here. So for first name, if we click on that, we can see that I've set this up so that this is proper case. So that just means that if people are entering their data online, they might not have put a capital letter for their first name, and Importacular will automatically correct that and add a capital letter. We can also select some settings for the gender settings. So we might want to only update new constituent records with the gender setting, so we're not overwriting an existing gender that we have on file for a constituent. And once we're happy with that, we can save it. I've also set up an address, a phone, and an email address for any new incoming data. So the address tab is exactly the same. All I do is select the fields that I want to correspond to my Razor's Edge fields. And then we'll also see that we've got some fields that have got a little green tick next to them, and that means that there are required fields in Razor's Edge. So I either need to select a source field, but I don't have address type in 4AGoodCause, so I'm just going to give all the addresses coming in a default type of home. And then we might need to create some more advanced settings here as well. So for example, in my Razor's Edge database, country is a drop-down field or a code table. So if I click on settings, here I can dynamically transform the data. So what that means is that if the data from 4AGoodCause coming over doesn't look the same as what's in my code table, I can make sure it still gets imported properly. So for example, in 4AGoodCause, country comes across the 2-letter code, so US, but in my Razor's Edge database, it's United States. So I just select that here, and that's very easily changed so that it comes in quite easily. I can add a new one. So I simply select the value from my Razor's Edge database. So for example, Canada. And then I just input here the 2-letter code that's coming from 4AGoodCause, and that will automatically transform any CAs into Canadas in my database. We can save that. So I've got the same with my phone and my email address, and then finally I've got a gift set up as well for my donations. Here you can see there's far more required fields, but that's fine. I've filled a lot of those with a default value. The amount of my donation is the total. I've got a date, which is the transaction date, and you can also select a fund, appeal, and any of those, and a campaign from your Razor's Edge database. So here, if I click on the fund, I can find any that I've got and choose one that's going to automatically map to there if I don't have it set up in my 4AGoodCause section. So I've just set up the basic data. Obviously you can set up far more here. And there are additional areas along the top that you can pay for to import into as well. They start at a low monthly subscription, and let us know if you'd like to trial any of those. So once you're happy with your mapping, we're going to create a control report. And this is just an Excel file to show us any errors that there might be during the processing. And it will also give us a summary of the data imported. We can create a raised edge query of new and updated constituents and of exceptions for any updates as well. Once we hit continue, we'll be shown our data review screen. So at this point, we've still got no data going into Raised Edge. This is where we're going to make a decision about what goes in and where it goes. So the first screen we can see is the data source screen. So this is an overview of the data that's going to go into Raised Edge. And on this tab, we can see any records and what's going to happen to them. So the action to take is create a new record, update an existing record, or if it's not sure, then it will ask you to decide. So the first record is a brand new one for Ron Pruitt, so it's going to create that. The second record is the same person, so we can see that's a grid match by that little symbol here, and that's going to update. So we're not going to create two records exactly the same in Razor's Edge. And the third record is a brand new record, so we're going to create that as well. Importacular will obviously look up any existing records in Razor's Edge too, so if it finds a match in Razor's Edge, you'll see it in this box down at the bottom. And if there's more than one option, then you can choose which one it is you want to update. Or you can say it's not the same person and create a new constituent as well. The other tabs along the top then drill down into the exact data points we're going to bring over to Razor's Edge. So we can see the fields I mapped here. We can see the address fields. If we go to the address tab, we can see the phone numbers and we can see the email addresses. Now, anything that you see in black, you can edit on the fly. So if you notice a mistake, so for example, here we're missing a preceding 0, we can just add that in without having to go back in and mess around with our data. And then finally, we've got the gift data. So we can see all the information that's going to go in there. Now, once you're happy with that, we can import the data, but before we do that, we can validate it, and that will just check all of our code tables and make sure that everything's going to go in as expected before it starts processing a large number of records. So let's validate that. So the green tick means it's going to create a new record, the little pencil means it's going to update one, and these, as we can see, are all going to go in fine. If there were any exceptions or errors, we'd see them in this section here. So if we close that, untick the validate box, and say import. We're going to create a query of our new and updated constituents. And save that. And then let's go and take a look. So let's find my Razor's Edge query. Here it is. I'm just going to put something in the output so I can find them. So first of all, I've got Ron. We've just created his record. And we can see all the data that was brought in as per our import. We've got a full name. We've got a partial address with zip code. We've got an email address. But you'll notice that the gift isn't here, and that's because the gift's gone in under batch. So let's minimize that for a moment. Go to our batch area. And here's our batch that we've just created from 4AGoodCause. Let's open it up. We can see our 3 gifts there, and if we're happy with them, we can commit it. Oh, so let's go back to Ron's record. And now we can see his gift's been added. And he's got 2 gifts on there, which is why there were 2 records. So we can see all the information has been added here as specified in our import. And that's how simple it is to import For a Good Cause data into Razor's Edge with Importacular. Thanks for listening.